hundreds of. Did I knock it out?
It's
Cut.
okay.
I almost started a fire.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. Today, my guest is Brian from Vital. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, James.
Dude, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. We've known each other for a while. You dropped soil off of my house before.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate the business and the trust and confidence in using my product. Someone on your level.
Dude, you have a great product.
Yeah.
You have a really, really good product. You guys stand behind your product. You know, I love your soil product. It's amazing. So, and your nutrients. You've always given me awesome stuff. So
appreciate that. 17 years deep now.
Wow.
Believe that?
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So how did you guys start? You want to go back and give us a little history lesson on maybe even before that? How did you start with within the industry?
Sure, I'll give you the quick rundown. Industry wise, I mean, cannabis, found me at a pretty young age, and
nice.
I felt drawn to it, young age, and then I realized that it was also like a way to really, link with other people, and it was like a good common ground to meet people that may not be from your exact same demographic, and just be able to like open up your like friend circle on like a huge scale.
Yeah, it's like the one thing that unites us all, kind of like food does for people. I feel like it's very similar,
Yeah.
Like you can have all these different backgrounds of people that they wouldn't normally be friends, but because of the plant, we're all connected in that way.
For sure. And I noticed that even at a young age, like in high school, because, all schools are similar. I grew up middle class Pennsylvania, West Virginia, East Coast, not much good weed ever. And, but a lot of people smoked weed.
Yeah.
And it was Mexican, and it was pretty much, if it was weed, it's weed. It wasn't like this weed or that weed, or it was just weed.
Right.
And, it definitely helped connect with different neighborhoods and different types of people, from the football players to the burnouts to the smart kids to the jocks to everybody,
So you were smoking in the 80s?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Nice.
82, 83.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was like 10 years after that. So
okay.
I feel like it was a little bit of a different scene after, in the 90s compared to the 80s from what I've heard.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think the 90s was more the like BC weed as far as like commercial, and maybe they were starting to get some California and some homegrown weed.
Well, I think a lot of the California homegrown. I'm from California,
right?
Too. So
like you probably never saw that Mexican brick weed.
No, I saw Mexican brick weed.
Oh, you did? Okay,
for sure.
Well, good. I'm glad.
We used to get pounds of it for it was like $400 a pound or something like that.
For sure.
And it would get you really high, and it would. Sometimes you'd have like a joint and it would pop seeds out of the joint. Yeah. You forget to take them all out or whatever. And
for sure.
It was a lot of the stuff was seeded, but some of it was green, some of it wasn't brown. Yeah. It was all pressed.
Right.
You have to like break it apart, and yeah.
Yeah, I didn't start to see the better Mexican weed until I was like more like in college. And then I finally started seeing, like, I'd say by like 88, 89.
Yeah.
On the East Coast. I mean, I'd occasionally see like go to a dead show in like a different area.
Right.
And be able to get a bag of weed that was like amazing, and try to just hold on to that as long as I could.
Right. Because
that was like the only access to like really high grade weed,
I swear every guest is interconnected with the Grateful Dead. Not by selection. It's just I think Grateful Dead cannabis very, very highly tied together.
For sure, especially, us older statesmen, been around 100%. It, and like, let's face it, like ChemDog, that happened because of a Grateful Dead concert, and like so many different, growers would like take their craft weed and go hustle that on the dead lot.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the open market then. And
for sure,
before that, like I didn't know of even good weed. So like it opened my eyes to, see what the possibilities were. And then it just,
What kind of genetics? Do you remember any of the strain names? Not that strain names are like any.
I remember smoking real blueberry bud.
Really?
Like in like 87, 88.
Nice. But more of like a sativa, right? Like
it was definitely a sativa-y for sure.
So my first experience with any sort of blueberry was a sativa plant. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the first things I grew at my house when I got 8 lights in with my buddy and he got these clones, and they were from Oregon, and it doubled in flower, and they were growing up into the lights, and it was like, I didn't really know what I was doing, but we were figuring it out.
For sure.
So,
well, I remember buying bags of weed of this blueberry, and then always like been on the lookout for it. And like occasionally I think once or twice really only is all that I ever got it. And I think that was the only time I really saw the true DJ Short blueberry.
yeah.
And then I just recently got the clone.
So DJ Short's is a short plant, right? His is a very short plant, and it's blueberry. But the one from Oregon,
so you don't think it's going to be the one that I've been having in my memory?
I don't think so. I
honestly don't think so.
And it might be. Maybe I'm wrong. But the one I remember is very different than DJ Shorts, because I was so excited to grow DJ Shorts, and I grew it, and I was like, got a completely different plant. And not that it was bad. It was just so different that it was a letdown for me, because I was expecting this sativa plant that doubles in flower.
You're putting like some anxiety in
these crazy frosty nugs, and it didn't have the same profile. It was blueberry, but like... Right. The one from Oregon was like this crazy, not fuely blueberry, but it was like really complex and down to the roach. You could roll joints of it, and you would want to smoke it down. You could pick the roaches up the next day.
This was that, and it was from Oregon.
Yeah.
But as far as the plant, I got it from somebody who says this is the DJ Short blueberry, and I don't know. Which is good.
No, DJ Short blueberry is great too.
If you had the experience, but the leaves are super serrated.
Yeah.
Almost to the point where they like fall. The serration.
Yeah,
goes inconsistent because it's like such a severe serration that it almost just blends together almost.
Wow.
And then there's also even some variegation in it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how it's going to come out.
I'm ready to try it for sure.
Yeah, I'll let you know for sure.
Yeah. So let's go into Vital. How did you start Vital?
Vital, I was a grower, and I was like always like leaned to the organic side of everything, grew a lot of my own vegetables and wanted to like have a clean organic product. And one day I thought I was using an organic product, and I read the label and I realized that there were some ingredients in there that probably weren't organic. And so long story short, I started like just looking more and more at labels and like realizing that there's a lot of crappy products out there that have this visual appeal that may like tend to think that the grower who's looking at it would think that it was organic,
right?
Whether it's like the name or however they like, twist something in your head. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it kind of started to bother me, and I was like, you know what? I think, this is what I need. This is something I need to do. And around the same time, you brought up earlier, Israel.
Yeah.
He's a good old friend of mine, and he was living up in Oregon, and they were kind of having similar issues. And
yeah.
Like we were all kind of like comparing notes, and those guys started a company up in Oregon at the same time, relatively. I also had a landscaping license. So I basically built my store and my manufacturing company off of originally just getting that landscaping license, state contractor's license.
Yeah.
So, and my company was called Vital Landscaping.
Nice.
So anyway, long story short, those guys up there, there was a couple of them. They had a little bit more capital put together, so they were a little bit faster putting some products out.
Right.
And so we distributed their products, and then I would make products that would be kind of like a companion to some of their products. So like their first products was they had a potting soil, and then they had a grow and a bloom. And then my first product was it was a humic acid, and which is Baseline, and still one of our leading selling products.
Right.
A liquid and a dry version.
Yeah.
And then the next product was fish, because like we were big on the whole compost tea thing.
Right.
So, getting compost and worm castings and putting them into water and adding a few things and mixing some oxygen into there and trying to see what came of it was like how it started. And then we kind of learned about Elaine Ingham and so on and so forth. So basically 2006, actually officially opened doors of Vital Garden Supply.
Yeah.
And started distributing a couple of those products from Oregon, the Vital Earth brand. And then,
so he was Vital Earth and you were Vital Garden.
Yeah. And and they were like, they called me one day and they're like, I got a great idea. Because I was already Vital Landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
And I was opening the store as Vital Garden Supply. And they're like, we'll be Vital Earth and you'll be our distributor. And I was like, sounds good. Looking back on it, it definitely created a little confusion. But on the other hand, we were all family and friends, and
Good people.
We represented them as it was our own, and like we were the California, hub for them, because being in Oregon and shipping and all that, it didn't make sense. And, they were caught up in Oregon building their companies and lives and, all that too. So
Iz has gone on to do all kinds of stuff. He's down in Colombia right now with Vital Earth down there, and Phytonics. They did, he's done genetics.
We talk very often. We're still very close. I've actually been down to Colombia with him.
Nice.
I had a project in Colombia that didn't all the way pan out, but we went down there together and we're checking it out in the early days, probably like 5 years ago, almost 6, when it was just starting down there. I think it's finally now starting to click in there.
That's actually when I met him, was about 5 years ago in Colombia at a restaurant.
That's funny.
Talking. Yeah.
Wow.
We have mutual friends, and we all went to dinner, and it was like, okay, yeah, he's a really good guy.
Yeah, super good guy for sure. Him and his wife are like super close friends with me and my wife, and
nice.
Yeah, we're close.
They're super cool. Yeah,
definitely. We're hoping to retire and grow old together somewhere together.
Yeah. Colombia's not a bad way to go. I feel like, tropical. Colombia has tropical too.
Colombia has tropical. That's where he definitely wants to have a place there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure all the way committed to like being the third world all the way, but I could definitely spend some time there.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I like visiting. I think it's a beautiful country. I mean, the cost of living down there is nothing.
No doubt.
So cheap.
No doubt.
Food is so cheap.
Yeah. So fresh and good. And
Uber was $2 the most anywhere when I was in Bogota.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere in the city, and the city is 10 San Franciscos.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that.
Yeah,
it's huge. So huge.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away because I would take Uber, but then you have to sit in the front seat because Uber is illegal. So the taxi driver, you have to make it look like you're friends with the Uber driver. So otherwise you might get left on the side of the road and the guy might get arrested. So yeah, good experiences.
We're actually working with a group down there who's got a American partner up here to get all of our products registered, because they're a certified organic facility already, and they're struggling getting products. So we're working hand in hand with them and the ICA, which is Colombia Department of Ag, to get all the vital products registered down there. So
that's awesome.
Hopefully within the next 6 months or so, they'll be available too.
Wow.
So that'll be cool. Open our horizons a little more.
Yeah, it's a really cool place, and I think they're really interested in cannabis, agriculture, all of it.
Yeah.
So organics. I think there's a lot of people that are pushing the organics down there.
For sure. It seems like people are super conscious of, what they use and what they put on the planet, and they care about their land, and so, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's interesting. All these different places we're expanding all over the globe.
Totally.
I mean, look at Portugal right now. Portugal's going full bore for it. I have a friend who just left yesterday to go work over there. But they got 40 acres full term.
Wow.
Which I saw the videos. I was like, that's really cool. You hear about stuff, and that's THC.
Yeah. 40 acres is quite a few.
Yeah. I mean, like, not compared to the United States really, but still, I mean, 40 acres. I mean, I guess it is. For one plot, 40 acres is pretty big. It looks pretty amazing too.
Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah.
Love to visit that someday.
Yeah. I can arrange that anytime for sure.
Awesome.
But yeah, and I mean, it's all over the globe. So it's not just there. I mean, we're talking about South Africa. We're talking about, Thailand. Thailand's making a big push.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah. I just read is the prime minister, he's not for cannabis.
I think I read that same article.
Yeah. I was like, wow. Well, it seems like it's doing good for their economy. A little late.
A little late to make that call.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. It's an interesting time on the planet for sure, between what's already happening in the economy and just like between technology and all the just craziness, and then cannabis being okay in this community, but not this one, and this one's good, that one's not, like even in our own country.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's a strange thing.
Yeah.
Well, we're in strange times.
Yeah, for sure. And for it to be like something that, that's going to be legal for the whole country.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it happen. Sure. And like see California, cannabis companies be able to thrive a little bit better and open their doors to like national, but it just seems like such a long, far off thing to me, because no one's rules are even close to the same in the same state, let alone the same country.
Well, look at how crazy testing is all over the place, just within one state,
Yeah,
but
totally.
As far as, I mean, we're so off base with a lot of stuff, but it seems so far away, but it's so close.
True. It is closer than it's ever been.
Yeah. I mean, in 1996, it was like, I knew it was going to happen in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And now it's looking like it's really going to happen. I mean, but it's still like, as soon as we think it's going to happen, then we'll have a bunch of setbacks.
Yeah. So, I'm curious to see what goes on with this potential rescheduling. I mean, I feel like it's a constant saga.
I'm not a fan of the whole rescheduling. Yeah. They need to deschedule, not reschedule.
Yeah, 100%.
It doesn't make any sense to consider it a Schedule 3 drug. That's just, in my opinion, that's silly. I mean,
it's just going to complicate. You see, this goes back to what I was saying. Like, how are we as one nation going to even be able to agree upon one set of rules? Like, yeah, that's a terrible route, because all these people who are already like way invested are basically going to have to throw away their infrastructure and start over just to like comply.
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Same thing. What are we going to start scheduling tobacco and alcohol too? Then they're Schedule 3. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
But we're in very strange times, because we're in, it's hard to say what's going to happen next year. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
It's amazing we're out where we are right now. It's amazing that we've gotten here so quickly in some ways.
That's true. It's true.
So it's a beautiful thing. Technology is an amazing thing. It's an amazing tool. It's scary at the same time.
Definitely.
So, and it's advanced, I mean, look at cultivation and the advances in cultivation. It's made huge differences in indoor cultivation.
Crazy. Even outdoor. Big greenhouses and outdoor.
For sure.
Like, I was actually at a facility in Watsonville, and they were partners with a vegetable farm like on the same property.
Yeah.
And they share equipment, and they just got this robotic AI tractor that needs no human.
Wow.
And it could do anything from vacuum bugs off of plants to spray them, to harvest them, to plant them.
Yeah.
So that's happening right now. Like,
I don't know what to tell you.
Facilities with people that you and I both know.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they have infrared now too. They can detect, they can detect ethylene in the plants, I guess. So they can have infrared sensors, and they'll know if a plant's going to express intersex traits, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and this is just the infancy of all this stuff. AI and all. We're just starting to get AI involved with stuff, and it's a blessing and a curse, I think.
Yeah, it's every day. I feel like something new is like showing its face, and I just shake my head every day, like, holy crap, we can do this now.
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, it's good. In other ways, I feel like it's speeding things up too fast. And kind of even just how they like made all these rules is like, they made rules without thinking of scaling or without thinking of how it might be when we're connected to the state next to us. Or there's just so much like not well thought outness, if that's a word.
Pollen mitigation was never a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you hear of it more and more, like especially in like Salinas and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was at a facility not this week, but my last trip down there, and they were like, they know that there's a facility next to them that's doing some breeding, and they saw lights on at a certain hour, and they're like starting to like worry, and they're like, I know you have males in there, and it's creating anxiety, and it's like
that will create anxiety for sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing having one male, but if you're making acres of seeds or something like that, it's like you're affecting the people around you.
Yeah.
But you can make them in the off season. What people don't understand is seed production can be done in the off season. There's a right way to do it. There's a wrong way to do it.
For sure.
Indoor production is a great way to do it.
Definitely.
Especially for consistency, because if you're making seeds and your neighbor's making seeds, they're going to get cross-pollinated.
Yeah.
You're going to have issues.
Open pollination on large-scale acreage is
scary.
And it's happening.
It's happening for sure.
People are doing it.
So you guys are delivering soil all over the U.S.?
Yeah, more or less. Soil, fertilizer, and newts. I mean, some things make more sense to ship far than others.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like we're shipping soil as far as like Michigan and New York. It's less than more.
Yeah.
We actually we need strategic partners in some of those other states to help us like have product on the ground there. Mm-hmm. That's one of my pushes for this winter and spring, is to try to just have more availability, because like so many people seem to like reach out to us and say, we want to try your stuff.
Yeah.
But to buy a bag of our soil is super reasonable, but to ship it is like maybe $50.
Right.
Like it could like quadruple the cost of, a bag of soil.
Sure.
Just by like giving it to the postman.
Right.
So that's one thing that's always been a struggle with like moving soil, worm castings, compost, humus, these heavy things.
That footprint.
Yeah. Moving things around is hard. Yeah. Liquids are a little bit easier, but still heavy. But we now have some dry soluble powders, and then we have, kelp, right, and we have smaller sizes for the home gardeners. So our web business has definitely picked up.
Nice.
But we do need to figure out a way to get products to, further out, less expensively, and that's a trick in itself.
Yeah. So yeah, the home growers and living soil, no-till living soil, organic. I think there's been a big push, more so lately in the last year than I've seen in a long time. I think there's pushes in every direction all the time, but like I've seen a lot of guys, it's a hot topic right now.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought this up because I agree. I feel like this year compared to last year, there's a resurgence for like people who really care.
Yeah.
And like the last 2 years before not this 2023, but 21 and 2, it was the years of everybody like scaling back, trying to figure out the cheapest way to grow as much as they can and cut their costs. And what really suffered is the terpenes. And what really suffered is the smokers, right, at the end of the day, because there's a lot of really crappy weed. And, I don't want to point any fingers at any specific names, but
most of it's crap. Yeah. I mean, honestly, most of it's, I don't know about crap, but most of it is not a great product, not the type of product that I enjoy consuming.
Yeah.
As a consumer, I want to smoke something that tastes good, that gives me an amazing high.
For sure.
And I think the effect is important, but the taste,
it's a full experience. Like, to me, we've been smoking this stuff so long. Yeah, it gets you high, of course, but the experience, the flavor, your mouth getting coated with the terpenes and the smoke, and
right,
like that's what we're looking for, is something to be like, wow, like we want that experience, that wow mark, and like I was saying earlier, is like organic and like well-grown weed is like so much different than like a nutrient company that's just trying to tell you to increase your ppms and
sure
push it.
Yep.
And what that created was like a whole upset in our entire industry, where like people were they'd rather get it from their friend or their next door neighbor, because they would have an experience where they would go buy some weed at a dispensary, and it may even have been a brand that they trusted before.
Yeah.
But because that brand had to cut corners because it cost a lot to produce, and the state, and I don't even want to blame that brand. Like, I don't blame them at all, because it's just to survive is where status quo right now. But those people who went to the dispensary and bought some weed, and it was just like not that great, and they're like, dang, $70 for this?
It's crazy.
Tastes like cardboard.
Well, so I think there's 3 types of consumers. There's like the social smoker that really doesn't care one way or the other about it, right? They just smoke socially. Then there's the flavor chasers.
Yeah.
And then there's the dragon chasers that chase the high.
Yeah.
And I like those are the 3 types of consumers out there. And a lot of guys that care about getting high, that's really the main focus. Like if it tastes good, that's a bonus, but they want stuff that's super, super strong. And a lot of guys smoke extract too. Most of those guys have gone on to smoke an extract, because flower definitely, most of it has a ceiling. Although now we're getting back into those like
infused products,
sativas that don't have a ceiling. We're talking about some of these, the pith is coming back, and the hazes, it's like they're definitely making a comeback.
Definitely.
But it's interesting because I think most people in the other 2 categories besides chasing the flavors would appreciate the flavor if they got to taste a lot of stuff that we get to experience. I think most people would appreciate it because it's just so distinct. And when you smoke something that tastes amazing, it's like, oh, that's all I want to smoke.
You don't want to turn back.
No, you don't want to turn back. And once you smoke it for a little while, then it's like you smoke everything else and it's just not as good.
Well, that's why I think right now is a good time for all of the cannabis brands and the growers to like shine.
Yeah.
Because we kind of went through this period where like, okay, dispensaries were just like such a novelty, where just the fact that you could go in there and actually go buy weed products, and it was just like a mind-blowing situation.
Right.
But now that people are kind of like used to that part, they want to have an experience where they like enjoy what they're buying, and they're actually like happy with their purchase, and you know what I mean?
Right.
So at this point, the consumer is getting more educated, which is a good thing. And I think it's the grower's job to put something in their hand that's going to change the way that they look at it every time they make that purchase.
Right.
So,
well, and I like what you said about educated consumer, because I feel like California is a little behind as a whole, because legalization happened, earlier in other states, Washington, Colorado. I feel like I see it up in Washington that they're able to not just sell the high THC stuff; they can still sell stuff that not quite as high a THC, and they go on brands that they trust. Mm-hmm. And I think that's happening more and more in California.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's starting to shift back to that, where the dispensary isn't necessarily making the rule where it has to test 30% or you're not bringing it in the door.
Totally.
Because I think that mentality has gotten a little bit evolved, where people are,
Well, it has to, because I feel like some of the best stuff doesn't test 30%.
Totally.
Some of the best flavor profiles that I like.
Yeah. Like OG rarely tests like in the places where
some of them just shoot up, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love good gas, and gas is making a comeback. Everybody's talking about it, and it's usually, you hear people talking about it a year later, it's like a big thing.
For sure.
So gas will be back. OG is going to be back. And maybe it won't be SFV or the Josh DOG or the Tahoe or the Diablo or the whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It's going to be these crosses that are coming out that are really heavy in the gas. And then purple with gas, where it's like real strong gas. I mean, I've seen a bunch of it, but it's going to get even better.
Yeah, I agree. People are going to take those Josh D's and combine them with some crazy, amazing flavors. And
that original.
And that is the part about where we are in this industry that is awesome. It's because like people like yourselves are making like amazing strains and just like opening up, terpene profiles that have never been, exposed because of combining things that,
that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of the pheno hunting process, the selection process is going through and finding stuff you've never seen before. We had fried chicken up in Washington. My partner Jason up there, big shout out to House of Cultivar with the fried chicken pheno.
I know Jason, actually.
Yeah. He's a really good friend, business
partner. Good guy for sure.
Yeah, those guys are great. They do good work. And they're just good people.
Mm-hmm, for sure. I remember early days going up there and meeting them and talking to them. And I think they even came down. And
so do you know Gordon from Grass Valley?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good friend too.
Okay,
he crushes.
I forgot. Does he have something to do with those guys, or?
So him and I and Jason work together. We've made some crosses. I did some reversals up there with Jason, and we've made a bunch of seeds together. Nice. And Gordon's made a bunch of genetics on his own in Grass Valley that are all epic.
Yeah.
So some really awesome stuff.
Definitely.
So he's another guy. I really like Gordon. He's a good guy and friend, and so just a very likable person and someone who loves the plant.
Definitely. Those are the people I gravitate to now too. Is like when people love the plant, it, and
it's just obvious typically.
Like you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, people that can't stop talking about it and talking about flavor profiles, and just, I think it's one of those things like I'm here because I love it. I love doing it, and there's struggles along with it, but I feel like that's part of life's lessons. And
for sure. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it, right?
Totally.
And, some of the struggles that we're all faced with feel like there's enough other ones that these ones shouldn't be in the way.
Yeah.
Which to me is like the regulation type stuff and the ridiculous, things that they make us go through. But on the other hand, the rest of it is part of the harder the struggle, the sweeter the victory.
Yeah, and I think you don't want an easy life. I think it's counterintuitive almost. You don't want your kids to struggle, or you don't want to, your family. You don't want your family to struggle. But I think struggle helps define who you are and what you're capable of overcoming.
Well, if you never have a struggle, then it's hard to learn anything because
there's no contrast. So like when you're really successful, you don't know the difference. I think it's the sour and the sweet. You kind of need both. You need to fail. I think you fail and you learn a lot if you fail.
Well, these last 3 to 5 years just in selling like soil and fertilizer and just dealing with growers, and we've had to completely evolve how like we communicate and like help farmers. So like one of the things when I first started all my products, the first thing I did when I would test them before I would even like bring them to market, it was to see how much you could actually use without burning the plant.
Right.
Because you basically want to like come up with your application rate. And everyone was worried. You don't want to go over the line. You don't want to tell people to use too much and burn their plant, right?
Right.
But now it's more like, well, how little can we use and
still get a good
and recommend
result.
it to somebody, feel good about what their outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
To the point where we know they're going to keep coming back. So we've had to like completely like figure out a way for them to be able to use our products on a less expensive, basis.
Yeah.
So, you got to know how to pivot. And we also have to work harder and longer and go further.
Yeah.
To get the sale. So you got to like make sure that the grower understands how to use it. Then you may have to present something to the finance department just to make sure that they're going to approve the sale.
Right.
And at the end of the day, there's like all these different layers and it's just like turned into like I feel like we're always quoting against somebody else, but at the end of the day, they need to look at what we could do for you as a whole instead of just like what the cost for this bottle of whatever it is.
Right. Well, it's so competitive in soil, in genetics. I mean, like if you look at, there's so many seed companies out there. What makes you stand out compared to any other seed company or me? You know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
What am I doing different? You know? And so we really think hard all the time about like, how can we improve our product? How can we make better genetics using tissue culture parents, making sure our genetics are clean before we even start making seeds? That's a part of our goal, is like to be able to give people the best product possible. And not just so we can get the sale, so we feel good about what we're doing as well.
Well, I'm in for the long haul. It's not like this is the first year, and I'm just trying to get people introduced. I'm trying to keep them.
Well, if you're still around
on the nipple,
if you're still in the industry, I think at this point you're in it for the long haul. It's not easy money. It's hard work and it's enjoyable work. If you love doing it, it's actually fantastic.
Oh, and all the driving around. I mean, this last week I did this little first I did this event in Humboldt.
Yeah.
And in northern Humboldt, so Arcata is like from Nevada City, like a 6-hour drive. So all the way up the top, almost to the top of the 101 before we get to Oregon, right? Did a 3-day event there. It was great. Got to see a lot of old friends, people I've known since I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And it was cool to connect and see, everyone's kind of in the same place. Like it's better than it was last year, but it sure could be a lot better. And we're glad to see you're here. And, if we're here, then, that's a good sign, right?
Right.
And then we rolled all the way down and first I stopped in Salinas and had a, little consultation down there and did a walkthrough at Pacific Reserve and checked out their plants. That's a huge facility. Now they're growing all the massive genetics because he's now part of that whole conglomerate now.
Wow.
So we did a nice pheno hunt there.
Nice.
And amazing stuff's going to come out from that. Definitely.
Those guys are going big.
Yeah, for sure. Not messing around.
Yeah.
I was one of the original founders there. And I'm a shareholder now. It's definitely a bigger company now. And they're also one of Vital's, best customers. And they've stayed really true to keeping it organic and doing a really good job with their product.
That's awesome.
And then after bouncing from Salinas, we did this event in Ventura, which wasn't really cannabis based, but it's the National Heirloom Seed Expo.
Really cool.
Which was like vegetable seed, fruits. But that whole seed mentality is the type of people that we are. Like all those people that are looking out for the best of the best, and they really care about what they're growing. And so we got to talk to passionate farmers, passionate gardeners and growers, people making seeds, people buying seeds. And at the end of the day, I feel like there is a really big movement towards people, getting back to the land, growing a little bit more of their own food. And sure, technology is coming into play too, but I think people still have that craving to have a connection to the earth and grow something.
Yeah.
Houseplants are great, but at the end of the day,
growing food is very rewarding. I think
for sure. That's my therapy.
Yeah.
If I don't have a garden, I feel like I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be like, what should I be doing right now?
Yeah. And let's say you don't want to grow tomatoes or you don't want to grow vegetables, it's too much. You can still grow herbs. You can
For
still
sure.
grow herbs. There's so many little things that you can do that you can eat, you know,
sure.
in the winter. It's not too late right now. You know what I mean? It's never too late. There's always stuff that can be grown that you can consume.
For sure. You can have a little plant of chives in your window to, you know, a tomato plant under a grow light if you wanted. So, I mean, anything's
now
possible.
they make these LEDs that go and, you know, you could put them in your window or whatever, you know?
I've seen people have these little grow tents with a veggie garden in it.
Yeah,
Instead of their cannabis garden, they have like food, and
I think that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fun.
For sure. It's good for families too. Like if you live in a city and you want your kids to be exposed to that. Because I was thinking, if you lived in like a big city right now, there's such a huge disconnection with like natural world, you know?
I guess that's better than making your kids trim. But I think it's a good family experience for everybody. You know, it's a great way to teach your kids about produce and about vegetables, and also to be able to taste the difference between stuff that you grow and stuff you buy in the store. Because I think most people have never experienced like, okay, well, yeah, I wouldn't say most people, but there's a small percentage of us that have grown a lot of stuff. And then a lot of people, they've only eaten store-bought vegetables.
Yeah.
The difference between a store-bought tomato and a homegrown tomato, even the heirloom in the stores,
for sure,
those aren't nearly as good as if you grow heirlooms yourself. Unless you go to Berkeley Bowl, you might find some good stuff during the season.
Sure, there's some great farms that put out some good produce, but you got to like nail it in that perfect window.
Yeah.
It's been trucked. It could have been on a shelf. Who knows how many people put their grimy hands on it.
Totally.
You know, there's nothing like that experience of going and picking something ripe and carrying it into your kitchen, cutting it up and eating it, or putting it on a sandwich or something.
Well, there's so many places you can buy exotic seeds. So like, you don't have to just grow a plain cucumber.
No.
You can, and a lot of places sell different cucumbers and stuff like that. But we talk about pumpkins, cucumbers, anything. There's multiple varieties that you could buy seeds of. At the very least, seeds. I mean, peppers, there's so many. Mm-hmm. Tomatoes, there's so many different varieties.
Even cucumbers now. I grew a bunch this year. I love those little lemon cucumbers.
Yeah.
And those Armenian ones.
The Armenian ones are my favorite.
Those things never get bitter.
So good.
They could be like 3 feet long and still bitter and still not sweet.
And still sweet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love the sun. Those things crush. They're good.
Those are good up in Grass Valley for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. Same thing with different lettuces. I think different lettuces during the winter, there's so many different things, and it's like that you couldn't even get in the store if you wanted to.
Well, lettuce is my favorite thing of anything to grow in the world.
Yeah.
That's my favorite because it's a short crop.
Yeah.
It doesn't even need fertilized ever.
Right.
You know, you just, as long as you have some like rich soil, it grows such a short period of time that it doesn't need fertilization. And it's, that is something of all the things that you could grow yourself and notice the difference between store-bought.
Yeah.
Like fresh lettuce, when you cut it, wash it, eat it, compared to it like sitting at least, if you see it in a store, it's at least 5 days from being cut.
Right.
So
at least
that's like
probably a lot more than that.
That's if you live in like Santa Cruz or something where it's getting, coming from Watsonville.
Yeah.
But like most people throughout the country, at least a week or two. Yeah. If it's in a sealed bag, a week or two for sure.
Right.
So like growing your own lettuce, harvesting that and eating it is like one of the most rewarding things.
I haven't done microgreens I experimented a long time ago, but my buddy is crushing Garden House Farms. They're doing microgreens now.
Nice.
My buddy makes the best microgreens, and they're super. I mean, and same thing with arugula too. Yeah, like arugula, you get it from the store, and it just tastes green.
Yeah.
It tastes plain, but then you get some really good
terps.
Yeah, it's got terps. It's got pepper.
Yeah.
You get strong pepper flavor.
I love arugula.
Yeah, me too. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I need to eat more of it.
Arugula is actually another it's even shorter than lettuce. 30 days, you're like, got baby arugula.
It's the best when it's small too.
Yeah. Microgreens, 10 days.
Yeah.
I love microgreens.
10 days. And you can set that up under fluorescence. Like it's super easy to do.
Get those little prop trays and get a little baker's rack in your kitchen.
So easy.
Super easy.
Yeah, and you don't need much too. I think they're super, like as far as nutrient dense.
Yeah.
Dude, like they're super amazing.
I mean, if you not to just pitch my soil, but if you grew microgreens in my soil, you definitely don't need to fertilize it. Right. It's not like my soil's tons of fertilizer, but it's rich because it has worm castings, compost, humus.
Yeah.
It's like got minerals. So it's going to be, nurture your plant, but it's also going to put out some like tasty mineral rich food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's funny, if you grew microgreens in all the different soils, they would, with the same seed, they would all taste slightly different.
Definitely.
In fact, that's a great experiment someone should do.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
You guys travel all over the U.S. for events. What about, are you doing international stuff soon?
Done a little bit, like this Colombia thing starting to pop into place. It's a little tricky getting product out of the country because of, Department of Ag regulations, and especially the nature, like I'm sure salt-based fertilizers are probably easy to ship because they're not so worried about microorganisms.
Dry. Yeah.
But with organic stuff, and just there's super paranoia of like microorganisms that are going to like go into some country and like, wreak havoc on some crop or people or whatever. So, there's like, it's kind of like that paranoia of just germs in general. Like there's bacteria everywhere. If you're scared of bacteria, then you shouldn't walk outside your door because it's floating all around everywhere.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you tell someone that you have bacteria or fungi in a bag or a bottle, then they're just like,
totally.
Yeah.
Well, Aspergillus really screwed up the Colorado market for organics, and it almost screwed up the Oregon market.
For sure.
But then the growers fought back and were like, Aspergillus is on everything.
Yeah.
Literally, it's on pretty much everything. It's probably on us right now.
Exactly.
And it's just, but you get these companies coming in and saying, dude, we don't want Aspergillus. You guys need to make it illegal to have Aspergillus. We need to test for it. And if it tests positive, you guys shouldn't be, consuming. It's bullshit.
Yeah. Those same people who tell you to push that 4 point whatever ppms are the same people trying to like get rid of, organics because they're worried about Aspergillus. But in reality, they just want to pound more salt and pollute the planet.
Totally. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's the wild, wild west still.
It sure is.
So as far as genetics, we saw some I saw some OG Kush that was pretty amazing.
Yes, sir.
What else?
Definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
That Skittles is pretty baller.
That was the cut from
that actually
from
Brandon and Shiloh.
Yeah.
Yep. That was third gen. When those guys were still working together.
Yeah.
Been able to maintain the mom of it for that long of a period of time and take good care of it, make sure it didn't get into the wrong hands and get hop laden virus or something else weird. Because that's one thing that I feel like has happened that has hurt the industry as far as like keeping good genetics around. And I wonder if that's one of the reasons why like the real sour is kind of like this like unicorn that is just like super hard to find. And you know what I mean? Because
sour's a tricky one though. Like
I keep seeing people say this is the one and it's close, but it's just, I still have not all the way seen it.
I feel you. I feel you. I mean, I had the Weasel's diesel that I got from my friend, and that was pretty amazing, but it was still a little bit different, but it smoked amazing.
Yeah.
I made some crosses with it.
Nice.
You got some sour diesel.
Yeah.
Skittles.
Sounds really good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love those two for sure. I think that would be that'd be a winner.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, sour diesel. I think there's been, a lot of bullshit copies, but Hop Layton did a number on sour diesel, especially. Yeah.
I think so too.
And we're talking about a really old plant. So, from the 90s, it's like 30 years old now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So the genetics aren't the same, but I mean, there's still good Chem Dog around. There's still good old school Chem D around.
For sure.
There is some good sour. I just don't have any on me right now.
Yeah.
It'd be better if I did. But
I'd like to see it for sure.
But yeah.
I've grown a couple that were close and I'm just like, almost, but not quite there. OG, that one's just been able to be banger for a super long time.
So you've had that same cut for a long time.
Really long time.
That's awesome. OG is amazing.
But, it's also like not commercial. It's not like to grow that on a large scale would be hard because it takes a long time to root it. It grows funky, so you probably don't want to be growing that in the same room as other stuff. And, like there's dynamics, and that's why some of these strains have gone out of like popularity is because of it's easy to grow a bunch of gelatos that are like super uniform and
they yield well. It's not a pain in the butt. It's consistent.
Yeah, it's good. It's good production weed for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some phenos that are really good.
Yeah,
there's some expressions that I really like.
I love Gelato 41 still, the Baccio cut,
Yeah. I like the 33.
Yeah, 33 is good too.
33 is great.
33 is actually a really good
yielder.
yielder.
About a gazillion other things too, but yeah.
For sure.
And same thing with the 41. There's a bunch of names, but 41's still really good. And Even the 45 had its place. I think that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's trippy how many good cultivars came out of one cross.
Yeah.
When you start thinking about it,
Yeah.
if you like gelato,
Yeah.
if you like gelato, there's 10 bangers that came out of that.
And these, man, I mean, it's in a lot.
Yeah.
It's in a lot.
Not all of them breed really well.
Yeah. And they don't wash.
No.
So it's a little bit,
yeah, everybody's
for the hash people,
so
which is popular now.
For as far as breeders are concerned, the whole washing thing.
Like,
does it wash? Does it not wash? Like,
need 5%ers only.
only 5 or 6%ers. It's like, and there's a handful of stuff that
to
washes
me, I'm
really
leery
well.
of a 6%er.
Yeah,
because they're out there
for sure.
And I've actually grown GMOs.
GMO and Banana Conda both wash over 6.
But GMO, I was stoked at the time, but
everything's GMO though now.
Yeah.
But even the guys that have like 5 different strains, they're all like GMO based.
Because they wanted to get that 6%.
Right.
But in reality, like what tastes the best in rosin is something like Skittles, which is like 2%.
Skittles.
Maybe 3 if you're lucky.
It might be the best extract flavor.
Yeah. I mean, I love Skittles. I love Rainbow Belts is incredible.
SoCal
there is
Dank.
some good sour. Actually, the best sour rosin that I've tasted comes from that J Plant Speaker guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It tastes, I get like an ounce every year.
Yeah.
And I like trickle it out to myself.
Yeah.
And it tastes great.
Nice.
I haven't seen the finished flower.
Yeah.
But the rosin, my friend actually gets it, and
it's awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Nice. Tart. There's this sour cherry that's like super tart from SoCal Dank. They make this rosin, and that stuff is just tasty. It's one of those ones that you want to keep smoking. Even after you're really high, you're like, I could still take one more.
That's kind of how Rainbow Belts is to me, because it's that gas and that Z terp.
Mm-hmm.
And it's strong, and it's just like, man.
Yeah.
It makes your mouth like
salivate. It's like skittly, but not skittly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of those crosses. What's the Rainbow Belt? It's the parent. It's the Moonbow. And the Moonbow is like one of my favorites.
Yeah.
That old school, like the 75 or whatever was before the 75.
I actually have some Moonbow rosin with me here.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So, I know Adam from Mark Hyman. He crushes. They do their rosin's really good.
Some of theirs, I kind of feel like they've done the best job.
Yeah.
As far as like getting the hashers that are really like bangers.
And all around, what I mean? Their flour is amazing. If you go get their flour in Oregon, it's super top notch.
I believe it.
So especially that Moonbow. I'm a huge fan. I think the 112 is the one. It's really good. Yeah.
I'll have to show you.
I'm a huge fan.
This guy actually is a Nevada County grower, and his name's Skrillmo. You may have heard of him.
Yeah.
He put this out. This was all grown with my stuff too.
So what I don't like is diet Skittles. But what I do like is Skittles crosses that are complex. I don't like a watered down. If it's you got to make it complex and different. You don't want it just a lighter version of Skittles. There's no point really.
You know who does a really good Skittles cross is
really good.
Lem from Compassionate Heart. His Dirty Skittles, that is really good strain. It's like Vermont Diesel to Skittles. And it makes some really good rosin. Really good.
Yeah, I saw some Afghan Skittles. It sounds good. Like I was like, okay, cool. It's probably got like some
hashy
funkiness to it. Like it was just like a Skittles light.
Right.
Very, very like you're like, oh, I get it a little bit, but it wasn't like Skittles is supposed to be overpowering, to where like it's so bright.
Yeah, I mean, Skittles needs to be loud.
Yeah.
And last year I actually grew a whole garden of it with a partner in Nevada County.
Yeah.
So I thought. And I was like, it was growing too good. In my mind, I was like, the whole time I was doubting it.
Yeah.
So the nursery basically gave us a Skittles cross. And we don't even know what exactly it was.
Sure.
But it took until about week 2 or 3, and I was just like, no, that is not Z-terps. And
sucks.
I grew an entire garden thinking that was going to all be for rosin. And it ended up being this other strain that came out okay. And it was a good producer for the guy and stuff. But still, my whole intention and the reason I even was involved on that exact garden was to get a whole field of Z. Those are the things that, there's certain projects that get me excited. And that was one that did.
I want jars of Z.
Exactly.
Z-terps.
I want years supply.
Yeah.
So
multiple years.
So it didn't work out last year.
Well, the good thing about time is there's always next year.
For sure.
Well, what are we going to smoke? You know what? Cook some of this Nemo Skittles.
Sounds good.
So where do you see the market going? I mean, I think you said your internet has been doing pretty good as far as web stuff with home growers.
Yeah.
I think that's going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, to be honest, that's another part of my winter and spring focus is like downsizing, not getting rid of the big sizes of my products that I have now.
Yeah.
But we're going to offer like a 4-quart bag of soil, a 4-quart bag of compost, instead of like 1.5 cubic feet that costs $50 to ship across the country. And not everybody needs that much anyway. So we're used to the NorCal grower, like who needs like truckloads worth of stuff. But in reality, this whole new rec market and like legalization has opened up a lot of people to just growing their 6 plants, or depending on what state they live in, 6 to 10 or whatever the number is in every state. And not even just for cannabis, but we're seeing home vegetable gardeners like spend a little bit of money on their crop because they care about, what their, outcome is going to be.
Well, and the beautiful thing about soil, and like your soil especially, is it's not like you throw it out at the end of the season.
Right.
It keeps going and gets better and better and better every year.
Yeah. That's something I should say about Pacific Reserve too, is like we've really been able to like dial it in there to be able to, use this product line at scale, but also to be able to reuse soil and compare the numbers and look at the yield compared to the fresh new soil, and like look side by side plants with new fresh soil and reuse soil. And we have a product that's called Vital Soil Builder that's biochar, worm castings, compost, humus,
nice,
and bat and seabird guano. So we basically at Pacific Reserve, they've been doing 2 rounds in the same soil, amending with like a cup of the soil builder and a little bit of guano.
Yep.
And stirring it up in the used soil and replanting. And the plants are actually even growing faster. Thank you. They're growing even faster in the reused soil because there's still like leftover nutrients. Plus they added this like fresh worm castings, compost, and humus. There's some biochar in there.
Yeah.
So it's like living soil, round 2, it's not, I'm not going to go to the extreme of calling it no-till, which no-till to me is a little bit of a just catchphrase anyway.
Yeah, most of it's low-till anyway.
Yeah, I mean, who's busting out a tiller? But in reality, you got to pull out the root ball. And if you're growing outdoors, like, let's face it, we got to like turn the soil. We got to pull the weeds out. We want to make the soil fluffy again so that the roots can penetrate.
Yeah.
I'm all for reusing soil. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like way all for it. But the no-till thing is a little bit of a marketing thing that's like, maybe it helps sell weed or something. But, let's face it, like, compressed soil isn't necessarily your best friend.
Yeah.
So giving a little bit of fluff isn't
ways.
a sin.
Right.
It's not like dumping a bunch of salt on it.
Yeah. It's not going to take away from the value of the soil.
Not at all. And, I don't want to offend anybody, but to me, the no-till thing is something that came on like way late in the game when we were already reusing and amending soil.
Right.
And cover crop and companion crop and all that. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But the term no-till is a little bit, to me, like not really describing what it is you're doing. Living soil, I'm all for that term.
Yeah.
I love that term. Because that's what we're all about.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Microorganisms in the soil helping your plant do a better job, or helping your soil do a better job for your plant.
Nice. What do you think of the smoke?
Tastes good. Everybody likes the Z.
Seriously. So have you seen any other stuff lately that have been, like
exciting stuff?
Everything's purple.
Yeah, actually there is a little resurgence for green weed.
Nice.
And I think that's goes to the gases though. OGs and people still in that search for the real sour. It seems like there's some hazes starting to make a resurgence. Shore's doing that big project.
Yeah.
I gave him a plant or 2 for that too.
Nice.
The whole haze thing is really cool, I think.
I do too. It's just like diversity, right?
Everybody just didn't grow haze because it took too long.
So well, now that people... there was a couple hazes that gave haze a bad name, and it was like the Jacks.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not like the old school Jacks because those were very good.
Right.
It's that linear Jack that doesn't get you high. That's like, but that's not how hazes get you really high.
Yeah, totally.
Hazes should get you lit.
Well, I love the cough. you know.
Dude, the Fort Collins cough is ridiculous. So I did some breeding. I did that with the banana Skittles.
Nice.
I got the Fort Collins cough from my buddy Ruben. And that plant is amazing. It grows crazy though.
Yeah.
It's like super thin.
We just grew it. We just grew one plant of it over this winter.
Yeah.
And it came out phenomenal. And it was during that whole period when like Nevada City got like 4 feet of snow. So long story short, there was no power for like 10 days. So there was no lights for 10 days.
Wow.
It took 14 weeks to flower.
14 years to flower would be amazing.
But it didn't even like take a hit in that 10-day period of being, you know, out. I mean, maybe the structure, hazes don't structure great anyway. But the flower came out amazing, tasted amazing.
That has the Braxton stack.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
It's a good one. It's super unique as far as like the profile of it is, you know, it's definitely equatorial, hazish, little, but it's its own thing for sure.
Yeah.
So, and I guess and
it's way different than the Piff.
Yeah.
Which is another version of NL5 by Haze.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of diversity in the cross.
For sure.
So another thing I did with the shoreline crosses.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of shoreline crossed it with some of the popular stuff now. The banana Skittles, Skittles back cross, grape gas, and double cherry gelato. Dude, that's the shoreline's got like this musky funkiness to it. Like
the musk.
Old school.
I love the musk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the cough has, I feel like. The basement.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both good ones. I get them from the same person too.
Very cool.
People that like it really like it. And people
that double cherry, is a cherry coming out?
For sure. There's definitely like a sour cherry.
Nice.
Which I like sour cherry.
Me too.
I got some dabs with sour cherry too.
Awesome.
But I like diversity in the things I eat. I like diversity in things I smoke. So I'm not just like, this is the only thing I want to smoke. Sometimes I'll get on like these fits with like Skittles or with Pluto or with some of these other ones where that's what I have. And I have a whole bunch of different varieties. That's all I want to smoke.
Yeah.
That one bag because it's so good. And then when it's gone, I'll go back to other stuff.
It's kind of like OG to me. I always want to go back to OG.
Anytime I get good OG, I'll smoke it all just because I like the effect.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like the taste of it too. I like that. Especially the good OGs that taste piney, where you got that nice pine and earth.
Yeah.
You know, and the citrus is cool, like really citrusy kind of OG. Like that's all right. But I really like that almost where you're tasting pine needles.
Yeah. And that's the myrcene, right?
I think so.
Yeah. I think so too.
But yeah, but it's stronger in others. It's like a combination of myrcene and something else because some of it have it. Like sour has it, but not to the extreme like some of those OGs have it where you feel like you're standing under some redwood trees or something like that.
Yeah.
Which actually you can eat the new growth off redwoods. I don't know if you've ever eaten the sprouts off the leaves.
I haven't.
They're super good and they're super piney. They taste kind of like OG Kush.
Wow. I'll have to give it a shot.
Yeah, the new growth. Anytime it's, and you're eating organics most of the time.
Yeah. Almost always.
Yeah.
As much as I possibly can.
You told me something earlier about most of the flower that you smoke is from guys that
that use Vital products.
They use Vital products.
Yeah, I almost feel like a connection to everybody who's ever using our products is like an extension of what it is that I'm all about. And, I always feel like if somebody is using a lot of Vital products, then I know that they're putting a lot of good energy into what it is they're growing.
For sure.
And the outcome usually is more than prevalent.
Yeah.
Like as far as like customers that have like won contests and over the years, like as long back as I can remember, people using Vital have been coming out on top. Like this past year, Emerald Cup, Rebel Grown, he's been a long-term loyal Vital customer for 10 plus years.
Yeah. Back
in the day when Third Gen was sweeping up the cups, they were always on the Vital program. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on this kid, Cannabis Chris, right now, but he just won the smoking jacket last year, and he won that, and then he won King of Z Hill, which was the first cup.
Chris Castle.
No, not Chris Castle. Different Chris.
Okay, but they were okay.
Chris won the flower.
Yeah, he did win the flower.
Yeah, this guy won the rosin.
Nice.
And he's won like 5 big contests lately.
We need to get him on the show.
And yeah, you should. And he's been using Vital strictly for a long time.
That's awesome.
And I love smoking his hash too. And it just seems like, you know, when you're proud of what you do and you know that you put out a good product, and you help other people achieve greatness, then you know, it's like an extra layer of rewardingness.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so rewarding to like know somebody else succeeded from it and then smoke the finished product.
Yeah.
And then have access to it whenever you want.
Well, it's great being part of something that's so much bigger than yourself.
For sure, that too. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
it's just so much of a bigger, like, the stuff we do has impact on it, good or bad, you know?
And I care so much too. It's not just like an ego thing where I need to smoke the weed that's grown with my shit. I also like check up on people growing with my shit a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I love to visit farms and I love to like give my input, or, you know what I mean?
When you love flower too, so that, you know.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, I think something you said earlier that really resonates, like, it's a lifestyle, you know, like right now isn't the best economic time to be in the cannabis industry. But as far as like being a cannabis lover, it's the best time ever. Like, I get to drive around and go to huge farms and small farms, big farms, medium farms, talk about what I love, help give advice if it's wanted, or just learn and hear what they're doing. You know what I mean? So
the fact that we can get paid
cool
to do this stuff is pretty awesome. I mean, just by itself, to be able to do what you love.
For sure. And
we talk about our 18-year-old selves and our 80-year-old selves are the only two people that you really need to impress. And I think my 18-year-old self would be pretty stoked.
Oh, my 18-year-old self is blown away right now.
Yeah.
Now I got to work on impressing the 80-year-old and make sure that I can still be surviving then.
Right. So if you had one piece of advice to give your younger self that first started out in the industry and doing the stuff that you did with the soil, what would be that one piece of advice?
I mean, most of all, just be confident. There's so many times where I was like, had anxiety that, you know, something may or may not work out.
Yeah.
And like, even to this day, I have to remind myself that it's going to work out. Like, whether it's trying to get a big account to buy stuff because sales aren't great, or whether it's somebody calls with a complaint and you want to make sure that there's no reason for them to complain. And, you know, like, sometimes I think I care too much, and I don't want to tell my younger self to not care.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, believe in your cause and just keep your eye on the prize, and it's going to work out. Because I think I spent too many years like worrying.
Yeah.
Like, looking back, me and my wife even have these conversations. Like, I think we've spent too much time worrying. You know,
I agree. I think those are the kind of lessons you learn when you're older, right? Like, you know, it takes time to learn that you don't need to worry.
Yeah.
Because you have a stack of proof of the stuff that's gone on, where it's like, all those times I worried and I'm here.
For sure.
You know, because really life, you know, we talk about data points on my show a lot, you know, throughout life, you get data points on life. And cannabis, the more you smoke, the more things you try, you know, you learn what you like and what you don't like, but you also learn all the nuances and diversity that's out there between each plant, between each smoke, all those things.
And you know what else is, like, the amount of people and the different types of personalities. And like, as I sometimes feel, even though I've been a grower my whole life, a whole adult life, since like I've always been involved with growing cannabis since 1988.
Wow.
And never had a hiccup since. So I've always had that connection. But sometimes I have different hats. And if I go in as the Vital Garden Supply, and, you know, not every place knows my history and not every person does.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like they look at me as like an outsider, as like a sales guy. Right. That's just trying to push some product line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could sense that energy, like when I go to certain places, you know,
for sure,
because they get that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I respect that they're used to that, but it's my job to make them feel comfortable with me.
Totally.
Without like bragging or like acting like I know it all.
Yeah.
But just like more like making observations about what it is that they've done and what they're doing, and try to let them know that I respect where they're at. You know what I mean?
For sure.
it's a tricky game right now, and everybody's territorial. Everybody thinks their system's better.
Sure.
And like you get back to that competitive thing, you know, like there's a million nutrient companies right now trying to get a sale. And at the end of the day, there's always somebody behind me trying to get the next guy. And I have to just believe in the fact that, you know, if they have success with my product and the finished product comes out as good as it's supposed to, then they're not going to go anywhere else.
Right.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
For sure. Especially with something like soil. So, but replacing your soil is a big deal, especially if you're reusing your soil.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have tried, you know, different things and seen if they could, you know, skimp on soil or something. And
for sure,
they later find out that was probably not the best route to go.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Rockwell. One of our last guests is like home grower and he loves Rockwell.
Really? Yeah, I'm not either.
And I think more so the effect than anything. Like you can get some stuff that looks great, smells great. Then you go to smoke it. Usually doesn't have the terps. And maybe every once in a while you find some stuff that does, but definitely doesn't have the same effect.
I agree. Like I'm a soil fan, but I've also learned to appreciate some people growing just like cocoa perlite blends and cocoa, because cocoa can attach some microbes.
Yeah.
It can like hold some life. I feel like Rockwell can't.
Right.
And like half the time I see these Rockwell grows in like these big facilities, and they're just pounding them with as much salt as they possibly can to try to get their like 5 pounds of light or whatever it is that they're getting these days. And there's algae growing on it, and it's just like, just doesn't seem right to me. You know,
totally.
At least the cocoa is like, it kind of gives the plant like enough space and a home.
You can get good flavor with cocoa.
For sure.
Really good flavor.
There's some good, like, I guess people call it nowadays synganic, you know, cocoa grown weed, people using some microbes combined with some salt and, you know, coming out with something that actually has like a happy in between, like a good yield, has that bag appeal, but actually has some terps and some flavors. And so that's another thing that, you know, I'm starting to have some appreciation for. And in my younger years, I would have been more critical.
Like, saying, no way.
You can't, back in the day, I thought that any amount of salt was going to kill the microbes, and it was just like throwing it out the window. But through years of experience and seeing people and different grows go through cycles, and like, sometimes facility will be all organic, and then the next thing you know, they make a switch because they want to save money, or they hired a new grower or whatever it is. And so like halfway through the crop, they may switch from Vital to whatever brand. And then next thing you know, I go there and I see mushrooms still growing in the soil, and I'm like, wait, the salt didn't kill the soil. There's still fungus there. It's still alive. So that's something I did learn, you know, like the first couple years of like seeing the commercial scale go from like the backyard grower to loud pack types, you know what I mean? So that's definitely something also as like a grower and, you know, from a nutrient company standpoint, to be able to see the evolution and learn how that you can combine products. And there isn't necessarily one recipe.
Right.
And you gotta like do what works for you as a grower. And me as a provider of products, I gotta help the grower understand how my stuff could fit into what it is they're already doing.
Right. Totally. What do you think of that Skittles now? Halfway done, it's still tasty.
Yeah. Really nice.
I prefer smoking stuff that burns down to the roach. But
if it doesn't, something's wrong, right? You put it out.
I think there's a lot of genetics that just aren't capable of it too. Where like you can get that. I mean, that's one of my favorite things, where you have a roach, you fire it up the next day and it still tastes really good.
Yeah.
Makes me smile.
Yeah. Doesn't have that stale flavor. Then something got done right.
Yeah. You ever see the cat piss back in the day?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like ammonia and skunk. Not gas, by the way. It was ammonia.
No, I know
super
it well.
Skunky.
Yeah.
1/10 of a gram would smell the whole room up.
And then I also the champagne.
Yeah.
Around the same time.
Champagne from Champelli.
Yeah. His name came up. We were talking about it the other day. Like somebody that I originally like would work with the OG with.
Yeah.
Also was working with that champagne, and he was friends with Champelli. This was like We're talking.
Yeah, no one has that cut. It's
we're talking
long
like
gone.
16 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was bag seed from Beaster.
Oh, wow. Of champagne?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because nobody has the champagne cut. It does not exist as far as
I'm almost
seen.
sure that's from bag seed from Beasters.
Yeah.
I actually need to ask him that. But back in the day, there was tons of those Beasters in the Bay Area. And
Tons.
And
there was some good stuff in there too. There was a lot of stuff, but they also used
some of it was good.
Yeah.
That, I'm not saying it was a bad thing, even though it was, Beasters, but
yep.
Yeah, long story short, that all those worlds collided at one point, and
yeah, genetics.
But OG rose to the top. And OG was like all anybody
for
wanted.
The longest time.
Because for such a long time, like OG was.
It was hard to get real good OG.
Yeah,
it wasn't like unless you were growing it yourself.
Yeah.
Or your friends were growing it, you didn't have it all the time.
Well, and a lot of us who grew it, like we made pacts with each other to not give it out.
Totally.
So to keep that value. And it did all right for a decent amount of time, but eventually everybody got it. And then it like turned upside down, and
but I think
then nobody grew it again.
What happens is somebody gets a bag seed and then everybody gets the bag seed. So like even with OG, a lot of people that I had, like there's a lot of bunk cuts of OG.
Yeah, like bag seed OG.
Many. It's not the same. No, bag seed is never good with OG that I've seen. And low terps, your OG should be smoking to the roach.
For sure. You'll enjoy that for sure.
Nice. Well, thank you for coming on the show today. If somebody wants to find out or they need to get a hold of you, they want some soil, they want to check out, you have an Instagram.
Absolutely. I'm Organic Brian. And then Vital Garden Supply also has its own Instagram under Vital Garden Supply. And then we have a website, www.vitalgardensupply.com. So if there's a will, there's a way to get a hold of us easily. Our products are available on the web. We also are available on Amazon.
Nice.
And I do a lot of events, and I love talking to growers and people. So reach out to me, send me a DM.
Awesome.
Let's grow.
Let's grow. Let's grow together.
Sure.
Right on, bro. Thanks for coming on the show. And we'll do this again sometime soon.
Sounds good.